Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show again. Yeah, for those of you watching, boy, we had a couple issues. We logged in, we got going, it started going, but I'm on the road. I'm traveling and doing things, and we had tech issues. Kind of crazy. I don't know. Just not good signal, not good something. But we're back and trying this again, and going to try and actually pretend we're professionals here for this show. Anyways, very excited to be here. We've got a big guest today. I'm very excited to introduce this guy. His name is Waleed Hamza, and wonderful, wonderful person. He was an Iraqi interpreter during the Iraqi war. Really a big deal. And he came here and he immigrated legally to the U.S. He's found Christ. Really an interesting guy. So I'm going to be very eager to talk with him and to kind of share a little bit because we keep hearing about Israel and the Middle East and all these different things. And, obviously every country is a little bit different. But the Middle East culturally is a lot different than America. And so I think there's a lot to learn and see. We got Cash Patel. I am so excited about Cash. This stuff, the Epstein list, the Diddy list, all these things. Now, I don't, the Diddy list I expect to be mostly Hollywood trash. And I don't really care about the Hollywood trash so much. I'm much more interested in, which politicians have been bought and sold and used because they have power. Hollywood doesn't really have anything other than, showmanship. But this is a really big deal. And I think one of the things that's been happening is I think Trump has been kind of playing a little bit more conservative about what he has his people doing until they all got nominated, right? So we've got pretty much all the key people in. You got Cash, you got the AG, Bondi, you've got Bobby, you've got all these kind of key people, Pete Hegseth, and they needed to be there. Tulsi Gabbard, these people were going to be opposed. The Democrats and the rhinos were going to do whatever they could to shut them down. And Trump had to do whatever he needed to do to get these people in. To get his agenda done, he has to clean out the deep state. And you can't do that without good people at the top of these agencies. He has to have people at the top of these agencies he can trust implicitly. And that's what he's done. He's brought in very good people that he can trust that will do the job and do it well. And that is a phenomenal thing, right? So I think it's been brilliant. And I think now that, the key people have been confirmed, I think you're going to see Trump really start unleashing these people. Bobby's already showing signs of it at HHS, and I'm very excited about that. So we'll see what happens here. But I think that this whole corruption game that he has to play with Congress, because Congress is corrupt as can be. I mean, you got a bunch of rhino sellouts. Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins. These are not MAGA Republicans. They're not even in the ballpark. So Trump had to do what he had to do to get his people there. And I think he's done that. And I think he's had his people kind of play a game and get in there. And that's where I think it is. So now I'm expecting these people to go. And I think that they will. It looks really, really promising. I'm very eager to see that, right? So we'll see what happens here. But I think he's got a great team in there. And I want to see what they do. And man, I hope that Epstein list comes out soon. Meanwhile, we've got a few other really interesting things happening. One of the things that I kind of want to point out is so there's this whole poll that went on with Twitter, and it was with Zelensky in Ukraine, and then the community notes kind of messed with it. And I'm not going to go through the whole story here today, but it illustrated that community notes can be manipulated, and I know this firsthand, right? So I've watched how Big Pharma does this. Big Pharma will get, a whole slew of community notes guys approved, right? So to be able to drop a community note, you have to go through a process. And you have to, basically be correct in what you say in this process numerous times. So if I want to post a community note, right, I'm a contributor, I have to rate a bunch of other community notes and end up being correct according to kind of this democratic process a bunch of times before my contributions will be published as a community notes guy. Well, the problem is if you're Big Pharma, you can pay 1,000 people to all upvote or downvote the same way in community notes, and you can manipulate the situation that way. So community notes have been manipulated. Particularly, I've seen it happening in Big Pharma, and now Elon is seeing that it's happening elsewhere, and that's a big deal. So he's going to try and fix and reform community notes. I think that's a big deal, and I'm excited to see what he does with that. I love the community notes concept, but there's got to be some attention paid, because uh, just doing it through popular vote allows these groups that are super popular and super powerful, like Ukrainian, the people supporting Ukraine, like the people supporting Big Pharma. They can come in and they can manipulate it. So that's a thing, right? So he's doing that. So we'll see what happens there. Um, Lots of other stuff happening, but today I really do want to focus on some of this immigration stuff and some of this Middle East stuff, and our guest is perfect for that. Before I do, please support us. GiveSendGo.com/RensLaw. Please go to www.givesendgo.com/RensLaw. $20 a month makes a world of difference for us. That's a cup of Starbucks a week, right? You give up one Starbucks a week, that's $20 a month. If you can give more, we need it. But your support keeps us going. And, I understand, people say, Renz, you're always asking for money, asking for this. Well, I've got to ask for money, right? This isn't a free thing. I've got staff to pay. I've got things to do. If you want us to fight, if you value what we do, we need your support. Your support keeps us. So become a monthly giver if you can. Also, please check out TomRenz.com, www.tomrenz.com. Scroll down there a little bit, and you will see Touchstone. And we're highlighting Touchstone today. I love Touchstone. They have wonderful, wonderful products. And particularly today, there is a boost product that we're going to talk about. Now, let me remind you that Touchstone is introduced to me by Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. These people are quality. They're good people. Sherry sells them. I sell them. So these are people that are selling products that you want. They're products that I actually use. You can use them for detox, and their Boost Focus product is incredible. The Boost Focus Fuel, it's something you got to go in there, you do a little bit of shopping, you find this really, really a tremendous impact on your ability to focus, get things done. It makes you feel better, doesn't make you jittery. Wonderful product. I love it. And all their products are made with different things that really help kind of clean you out and make you more functional. So make sure you're checking them out. You need to have yourself on detox. Also, please, if you've got kids, please get them on detox. They need to be detox, especially if, like me, you're late to the game. So my kids, they were vaccinated before I knew. Now, they'll never get another vaccine again. My children will never get another vaccine again. But I didn't know when I started. So if you're like me and you made mistakes and you got your kids jabbed, get them on a detox. They need to get cleaned out. You need to do an initial cleanup. Well, a lot more on that. All right. So anyways, I want to bring on my friend Waleed, my new friend, introduced by our mutual friend, Robbie Grayson, who's an incredible guy. Shout out to Robbie. But Waleed comes to us, and and let me bring him on screen here. How are you doing today, Waleed?
Good, sir. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm honored to have you here. And Waleed, your story's incredible. So you're a guy in Iraq. You're living in Iraq under Saddam. We come over and we decide we're going to blow up Iraq and get rid of Saddam for y'all. And you helped us. You helped our troops. You supported our guys. You were one of those guys who did the translation, that helped us kind of navigate around and do all these different things. And that war doesn't go the same way if guys like you don't help. I mean, you were embedded with a bunch of different groups in the military and did a lot of work. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I worked as translator with the Special Forces guys for a better time of 6 years, where I was a translator. The first year I worked with regular Army. It was right after the invasion, but after 1 year, there are a lot of political things that took place, a lot of really bad decisions made on behalf of the American intern transitional governor at the time, when they decided to dismantle the Iraqi military and all that. Yeah. That's when the real war started. And so when that happened, there's a lot of stuff that took place, a lot of laws, a lot of the whole country shifted. And then they kind of pushed me to go work for the Special Forces guys. And we're training they were training the Iraqi counterparts, the Iraqi commandos, and the ICTF. And I was there to help translate the training, do missions, and so on and so forth.
Well, and I want to tell everybody watching, let me explain to you why this is so important. This is a critical interview, and I want to explain why. So we see, the fight in Ukraine. We see the fight that's going on in Israel with Palestine. We see the unrest kind of across the Middle East right now. The war is something that's interesting. One of the things that I found through interviews, through research, through work, is we seem to have kind of a misunderstanding of what this really is in other countries, right? So when we look at the Iraqi war and we look at what's happening today in Palestine and Israel, things are not the same. People are culturally different. They're vastly different than what we are here, right? So when we talk about Iraq, attention listeners, with uncertainty in today's economic climate, securing your assets has never been more crucial. Beverly Hills Precious Metals is here to help you safeguard your wealth with gold and silver investments. Their experienced team, led by Andrew Sarcini, provides personalized service to ensure that you make the right choices for your future. Don't wait. Get there today. Go to bh-pm.com. That's bh-pm.com. Tell them Ren sent you and take the first step towards securing your financial security today. You have another, one of the Arabian countries is truly Middle East, and there's certain cultural similarities across the Middle East. Obviously everybody's not identical, but there's similarities, right? And we need to look at those similarities and understand what's happening and kind of do a little bit of homework to understand what's going to, what this looks like. And, with Iraq, we destroyed a country and rebuilt it, right? We destroyed the government, we took it all out and we rebuilt it. And that's kind of what we're being asked to do elsewhere, and we seem to have a long habit of trying to do that in the U.S. And so we need to take a few lessons from there. Now, one of the things that's really interesting that you said, Waleed, and I want to really key in on this, because when we talk about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, this is, I think, very relevant culturally. And please tell me if I'm wrong, right? So, but Middle East, by and large, one of the things that I see that seems very similar across many of the nations is there is a far greater focus on power, physical power, than what we see in the United States. And what I mean by that is, so we come in and we topple Saddam, we throw him out, right? And we think, okay, we're going to rebuild this country and make it this, make it that. And what happened is we actually, instead of actually, seeing all the people come together and sing Kumbaya around the campfire, what happened is we removed a dictator who was a horrible human being. He was an absolute monster. But instead of everybody coming together and getting along, there was a power vacuum. And that power vacuum is been pretty much in perpetuity since, something that people have been fighting over. It's like there's always a need for a very strong leader, and these factions across the country seem to always be fighting with each other. And until there's a strong leader that just says, I'm going to rule all the factions, it seems to just be a fight. So we didn't actually accomplish. Yes, we got rid of a dictator, and yes, he was evil, but as far as the people of Iraq are concerned, did we really? Did it make everything all that much better?
No, and you're right that so Saddam, when he took power, the country was much better. But after the Iranian War and after Desert Storm and all these wars that he dragged the country through, really left the country in shambles. We did, and talk about each and every individual. Personally speaking, we went from a not so wealthy family, but we were doing very well, to their poor family. We were we got destroyed. And he talked about the United States going into country and destroying everything and taking Saddam. Yeah, well, that's all right, and for the reasons why the war started and all that. I understand all that. Yes, it wasn't true, but from my perspective, at least from the naive college kid, was like, okay, well, I had no future in Iraq growing up aside from going in the military, and that's it. That's it. If you only go, the only chance for you to survive and make decent living is to be part of the government, and that's it. So when the invasion happened, everybody is kind of like, yeah, the reasons behind it was like WMDs and all that. Is like, yeah, Saddam did have WMDs and used them against the Kurds in Iraq, but really the country was just a shell. And like he was just put in a show, and on the inside, really, there's nothing left. So and that's why the invasion took about 2-3 weeks, and to get everybody in Baghdad. So after that happened, my motivation was to, all right, well, now that Saddam is gone, let's build the country. Let's go and try to have a better country with better future. So we started working as a translator, hoping that things will change, hoping that things will turn out. Well, to your point, getting rid of Saddam created a huge power vacuum. There are a lot of people, even within the military. The first year, as we talked earlier, the high-ranking officers and everybody that was in any security system that was in place, they were hoping that the doors will be open for them to come back and build the country and at least have the infrastructure. But then all of a sudden, Paul Kramer decided to dismantle the Iraqi military, Iraqi intelligence, and every security system that was in place. And that's when the real war started, really in 2004. Because just pretty much what he did is just basically labeled everybody as a terrorist. And I cannot, his information were coming from his perspective at the time. I'm not trying to defend him, but he apologized for that decision because he plunged the country into a civil war for sure. But nevertheless, the result of that created a huge power vacuum. Everybody is angry now in the previous Iraqi military, who really just didn't have any choice but to be part of the government just to make their ends meet. And then when that opened up the door for Iran to come in, for Al Qaeda to come in, and all these foreign actors, and not just Middle Eastern. And actually, there were a lot of people that came across from different countries, and they were not just only there to fight in a sense, but also to observe, if you know what I mean, understand how tactics are done, how ways or certain situation, how the U.S. and coalition forces respond to what are the recent technologies, and that's gathering intel on any that's just the basic stuff. Leave it at that. So yeah, and the trade-off that we had that back then, people didn't understand. We had high hopes that the United States will help the country get back on its feet, and now that Saddam is gone, but it turned into such a chaotic war that really plunged the country into civil war, torn people apart, and it got to the point where really it's a mess. And up until now, Iraq, it's not free. Iraq is still occupied. Iraq is still being controlled by other countries, and mainly Iran. There are a lot of politicians, a lot of people in power who are more loyal to Iran than Iraq. And the same people that back in the day we were focused on fighting Al Qaeda, fighting Mahdi militia or whatever. Now they're in power. Now they're there and in charge. So what's the trade-off? Now we got rid of a dictator, but look what we have now. Yeah, there seems to be fun, but if you look at it, it's It's not. It's Iraq is a, by proxy is an Iranian government, you know.
Yeah.
So that's at least that's what I see, and that's what I believe from my perspective.
Well, and this is well, but your perspective is valid. I mean, listen, you were there, you did this job, you were. I mean, you're kind of the expert here, right? So, and but this is really important. I want to tie this in. So, basically, what Cheney and Bush did. Hey everyone, are you ready to take charge of your health? The Brighteon store offers a variety of wellness products to help you achieve your health goals. From immune support to personal care, they have everything you need to stay healthy and vibrant. Visit brighteonstore.com, brighteonstore.com. Tell them that Ren sent you and check out all the fantastic range of products that they have today. Was they took a messed up Iraq and traded a dictator for expanding Iranian influence. And Iraq is very largely now, I mean, it's not officially under Iranian control, but they have a lot of influence there, and they've expanded. And this same sort of expansion has occurred throughout the Middle East, thanks to these continued stupid policies from Bush, Cheney, but then on through Biden and Obama. All these guys, just terrible policies, and they've allowed Iran to expand their influence all over the Middle East. And this leads me to the conversation about Palestine and Israel. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things, and I understand that this isn't where you're from, but let me tie this into your expertise. When we look at Palestine, and you see we got all these idiots, free Palestine, because what? They're going to get along with Israel? So here's the thing that you got to understand about Palestine. Strategically, if you want to mess with Israel, Palestine is the perfect staging ground. It doesn't get better than that, right?
Right.
So Israel, for its own defense, naturally is not super eager to let Palestine just do whatever it wants to do, because many of the people in Palestine hate Israel. Mm-hmm. Now, the spread of Iranian influence is really important here, because Iran has tremendous influence in Palestine, and Iran hates Israel. Mm-hmm. And so we keep getting these attacks and these different things launched from Palestine, and Israel's stuck with it. So it's been an ongoing thing. This is important because Trump is now saying, hey, we're gonna turn Palestine into a resort or something. I don't know what he's gonna do there, but regardless, what I think that I want to kind of get to here, and where I'm going with this, is across the Middle East, there's this culture of power and dominance, and you're either leading or being led, controlling or being controlled. There is no, in America, and I think this is something for Americans to try and understand, I don't want any more war anywhere in the world. If we can end war, that's great. And I certainly don't want America out there policing the whole world. But there's some things that we've got to take care of, right? We made a mess in the Middle East. We ought to help them a little bit, get that cleaned up. And with regards to Israel and Palestine, it's not, in my opinion, fair to ask Israel to let Iran sit in their backyard and launch missiles into their cities indefinitely. And since the Palestinian crew has not been able to, I would equate, and I'm curious whether you agree with me, I would equate what's happening in Palestine with what happened in Iraq. Palestine, you have a new leader in Palestine every 5 minutes, because they keep killing the old leader. So there's a perpetual power vacuum in Palestine, and it keeps getting filled by the next Iranian propped up dictator wannabe. Mm-hmm. There's never people say, well, the people of Palestine just want peace. Well, ask the peace activists that they just sent his head back, right? They just want peace. Okay, yeah, looks like it. Palestine has been ruled by Iranian prop-up dictators, and they send this stuff over, and I'm sure there are some decent people in Palestine, and those people could be protected, but I don't know how, and I'm curious whether you think there is any way that you could ever get, in light of what you know, coming from Iraq, seeing Iranian influence, in light of your knowledge of the culture and the people over there, is there any way, in your opinion, that Palestine could ever live peacefully with Israel?
Yes.
Okay, I'd love to hear.
It's very complex. You
Yeah.
have to. History is your best teacher.
Yeah.
Look at Lebanon. What happened
Okay.
before Hezbollah came in, and look at Palestine before Hamas came in. They're
Okay.
they're, they're the same. They're exactly the same. They're identical. This is just the two different faces for the same bill.
But how
Um,
would you get them out? How would you get the Hamas Hezbollah presence
so
out?
the problem. Let's understand what's going on before we jump in. So there there are Palestinians
Yeah.
who are absolutely decent human beings.
Yes, there
And
are.
they
100% I
are yeah,
agree.
yes, and they created these connections and created these relationships with the Israelis, and they bond together, and they're absolutely fine.
Yeah.
The problem is that what we see on TV, what we see on the news, you see a proxy war.
Yeah.
Proxy wars are alive and well there, and that's what we're seeing. And the problem is that you see innocent civilians in the midst of it who are just being brutally murdered, whether Israelis or whether they're or Palestinians. And they take that negative, the Hamas or whatever, or Iran, and all that propaganda machine is just put that on the top, and it shows it, broadcast it to the world, which is an absolutely, it's a complete lie.
Yeah.
The same thing what happened with Lebanon. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, man, tell me from your perspective. He left Lebanon when the whole thing happened. Lebanon was we used to call it Europe of the Arab world. It was beautiful. It was a touristy country. Everybody comes in, and they welcomed everybody. They welcomed a lot of people in, and then slowly but surely they saw this shift in the culture, and then all of a sudden you got Hezbollah, and then Hezbollah start bringing in the Islamic Sharia law, whatever, and then things started to change. And then and then people who are peaceful, who just want to live in peace, they don't necessarily gonna pick up arms and fight. They tend to get along, and then down the road things change. And now look at what happened in Lebanon. Same thing with Palestine. So now Palestine is the way you really need to address that issue is educating people. There are a lot of people need to get better understanding of what's going on.
So how
The
do we do that? Are you talking about globally, or are you focusing on?
globally, yes, globally, Iran needs to be exposed, and their interference with Hamas and Palestine. Look at the propaganda. And there's just like the what we watched in the news yesterday. The return of these bodies and caskets of this woman who now it seems to be not be that lady with her kids, according to the Israeli government. But look at the look at the stage. Look at how they filmed it, how they brought
Yeah.
everybody in, and just
Well, it's absolutely manipulated on both sides.
it. That's the point. That nothing. The truth will set you free. That's the only thing that can really bring that region back. Get it. We need to get it under control. We need to get it in a place where the people who are the Palestinian people, they need to understand what reality is. Same thing with the Israelis. Same thing with everybody on across the board. Understand that you have two groups of people who both believe that this is my land. This is the promised land. Now,
Mhm.
theology wise, we can have a different conversation, but how do we address it now?
Yeah.
These people need to come together first, and they can live together. They have been living together. The problem is just getting those bad actors out and get that under control.
It's an interesting perspective. I'm going to tell you that, and this isn't probably a controversial perspective, but mine is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, our country is such a mess right now. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at what Doge has uncovered, you look at what's going on, you look at the corruption. We've got the tie-ins with people like Epstein, with just sick monsters, pedophilia, child trafficking,
Yeah.
the stuff that we see. I got to be honest with you. I think that what you're talking about is the same sort of exposure of truth that we're seeing with Doge in this country.
Hmm.
I mean, you're talking about eliminating the darkness by shining the light of truth in it, and I
Absolutely.
love that, and I think it's a wonderful thing. Uh, but I really think it's an interesting thing. I think that at the end of the day, I think that America. I can't say I speak for everybody, but for my part, yeah, we got to get our house in order before we start cleaning someone else's.
Hmm. Sure.
And it's kind of how I look at it, and I know we're talking about, I don't know whether it's a joke or if anybody's serious about it, but they talk about annexing Greenland and Canada, and to me, I feel the same way there. Um, we can't even manage the United States. Why the hell do we want to manage a bunch of other places? And why are we trying to be policemen for the world? I think probably one of the best things we could do is, if Iran's going to continue starting and funding wars all over the place, if we got to take out Iran, just take out the head of the snake. Quit screwing with it. Quit messing with this, right? But I don't know if that would really help either, because if you take out the leadership in Iran, to me, I think ultimately the problem is a cultural one. You've got too many different factions. You got too many different, essentially warring tribes throughout the Middle East that have been warring for millennia. And
Hmm.
unless the people of the Middle East start demanding peace and demanding, honesty and transparency from their leaders, it ain't going to happen. So I got to be honest. For my part, I'm kind of sick of America running around and spending our money and killing our kids in fights around the world that aren't getting anywhere. So I support Israel. I accept that there's corruption in Israel.
Hey everyone, are you ready to simplify your healthcare experience? My Go-To Doc provides easy access to medical services, including virtual doctor visits and prescription refills, all from the comfort of your own home. Go to mygotodoc.com. That's mygotodoc.com. Tell them Ren sent you and explore their comprehensive healthcare solutions today.
But I certainly support the Jewish people
Right.
and their right to live peacefully. But I support everybody's right to live peacefully. And Israel's there; it ain't going anywhere. So the idea is that some of these people that are out there, they say, "Well, Israel doesn't belong." Bull crap! Get over
No.
yourself.
Yeah.
You guys want to live your life fighting and killing each other, I guess go ahead. But I think I'd love to
Right.
see us get our nose out of it. But the sad part is, though, is when we talk about these wars, in every single nation and in every single war around the world, there are good people who end up suffering greatly, and people who if given the opportunity, can do amazing things and be amazing people. And that's where refugee status and American immigration comes into play. Now, this is something that is really not discussed, right? So when we talk about immigration, right now the narrative is the illegal immigrants, and they are a disaster. We got to shut our borders. Thank God Donald Trump is doing that. We need to get rid of the illegals. If you came here illegally, you don't belong here. But we also need to reform and improve our immigration process so that we can have good people come to this country and keep bad people out of this country. The whole process is corrupt garbage right now. And we have to start out by getting rid of the people who don't belong. We can't have a bunch of, with the million plus Iranian and Chinese military age men that cross the border under Biden. We can't have that. They got to be gone. We can't have the Tren de Agua. We can't have the cartel warriors that they sent over here. Those people got to be gone. But I want to share something different. I want to share a story here, and that's your story, right? So here's the other side, and these are not mutually exclusive, right? We can get rid of the illegals that don't belong here, and
Right.
still talk to people like Waleed, who, Waleed was a hero. For Waleed to stand with the American military and to do what he did as an interpreter during the Iraq War put him and his family at risk. It just did. This is well known, and I worked with some of after the Iraq War. We had there were international military tribunals where Saddam was tried and others were tried. So I had the opportunity. I actually edited the initial release of the Chemical Ali trial, with that. And, I had the opportunity to meet the prosecutors and judges and that, and they talked to me extensively. We talked extensively, and I had the opportunity to talk to people and kind of hear, y'all that were helping were all at risk. So you were a hero. You said you helped the American military. And so then you come to America legally. And I think your story is impressive. This is what immigration should look like, right? You got people who are doing good things, good people, follow the right process. You come to America, and you're a productive human being that's doing good things, supports America, and even found Christ along the way, which is interesting. So I'd kind of like to shift gears a little bit. Waleed, tell me a little bit about your story, right? So you've helped the American military, and at some point you decide, hey, maybe I need to get to America. How does that all happen?
Well, I didn't realize it was the SIV program started here in America, and actually one of my good friends, his 10th group, he sent me an email. I was actually on leave at home, and he sent me an email. And he said, "Hey, man," called me, and he said, "Hey, I created this email for you. Just go and take a look at it." And so back then, we didn't have internet. We have, if you remember, the internet cafes and back in the day. So I went in there, and here I am in an area where majority of it are Sunnis and a lot of Al Qaeda presence there. So I go in there and open up the computer, and all of a sudden I see the email, and I see the attachment, and I open it up, and there's like the United States seal and big broad, and I'm like, oh gosh, turn it off. And clear the browser and leave. So he is the one who sent me that email and said everything. I was like, hey man, there's this new program came up. I wasn't even aware of it, but he said there's a new program opened up in the United States. It's an SIV program where special immigration visa, you qualify for it. And if you wish, you can come, and I'm happy to sponsor you. And I was like, oh man, wow, that's a great. And at that time, I was in a very dark spot, and I was literally one of those days that are you kind of come to peace that you're gonna die soon, and I'm living my life that way. I know that I'm gonna die soon, and I'm just gonna,
because of your health, because you helped the American military, or
yes, and that's one of the things that these are the things that we talked about in the book. Is
they were hunting the translators down and their families, from what I hear.
Right, and it's not just that. It was back then. It was I'm a translator. I'm Sunni. It was like that civil war back in the day when and then you have the unit that I was working with, and they labeled us the Dirty Brigade, and they usually made big news back in the day. And then all of that combined together, there's I remember the next time it was like there's a $10,000 on each item of those things. It's like I reached like $40,000 on, like, man, I'm nobody. It was like, what are you talking about? And anyways, so that it was a glimpse of hope, and there's like, man, there's a way out actually. And that was after my dad was killed, my grandfather was killed, and like there 20 plus of my friends were murdered. And was this
part of the Shiite Sunni war?
Yes. It was my friends were because of translators. My dad was it was a combination of the two. I don't know what he was assassinated literally as he was driving in the car. It was a drive by, and just they opened fire at him by the Mahdi militia. And then also my father, and my grandfather, they attempted to kidnap him from his house, and then he put up a fight, and so they just basically executed him right in front of his house, and as they were dragging him out, but yeah. So anyways,
so I want to, and I hate interrupting people, but I'm going to here. Ladies and gents, you're watching this. Think about this. So I want you to think, when we talk about these wars and some of culturally, it's not the same thing. When you hear about what's happening in Palestine, the Middle East, we don't have this sort of a thing here. You don't have to worry about getting drug out of your house and shot. You don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to have someone murder you. Don't get me wrong, we got our bad neighborhoods and we got our crime issues, but there's a world of difference between what people are experiencing elsewhere in this world and what we live with here. And when we try and understand the solutions and the things that are being proposed elsewhere in this world, you can't look at them through the lens of life as an American. Our lifestyle, we take so much for granted. So much for granted. You never have to worry. Well, I mean, maybe under Biden, you had to worry about them dragging you out and trying to vaccinate you, which is akin to killing you. But I mean, it's a wildly different thing. So listen, and by the way, make sure you're checking out Waleed's book, Occupied. You can see on the screen, there's a QR code, and make sure you're supporting it. But I want you to think about this. This is a guy who helped the American military in a war. He stood by, he did the right thing for our country, not even his own. He and his friends were then hunted and murdered for doing that. And then in the meanwhile, other people who were close to him were being murdered in a civil war because of what we did, because of the power vacuum that we created with no plan for the peace. We toppled a government that, no one's going to say Saddam shouldn't have been toppled.
Attention all sleep lovers. MyPillow is your go-to source for premium sleep products. I don't get to sleep much, so when I do, I need to sleep well. That's why I use MyPillow products. Whether you need pillows, mattress toppers, or sheets, MyPillow has everything you need to ensure that when you finally get to go to bed, you sleep well. Don't wait. Visit mypillow.com today. Tell them Ren sent you and get exclusive discounts. Find out why Mike Lindell made $1 billion selling pillows. It ain't because he doesn't sell a good product.
But we left a mess. We didn't have a plan. Bush and Cheney did this, and Bush and Cheney were the predecessors for Obama. Listen, they were garbage. I thought at the time, I was a fan of Bush and Cheney at the time. I was wrong. Man, was I wrong. But this is a big deal. So I want you to listen to this. So you get the opportunity, you get a special immigration visa, and you see, maybe I can get out of here and not be murdered.
Right. So I did, and I started the process at the time I was married. And then there are a lot of issues that took place, and I tried to bring my ex with me. And one of the things that she was like, no, I'm not leaving my parents. And there are a lot of things that took place, and we ended up getting a divorce. Hadn't I not had that marriage, I would have applied for my mom and my siblings who were minors at the time. Now, culturally speaking, I'm the oldest son. So when my dad was murdered, I assumed the responsibility. I'm the head of the household.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that you when we talk about immigration and till the day now, my mom, who is 64 now, can't be here. I'm 14 years in the process trying to bring her here, and it's insane dealing with the immigration and seeing all that's happening.
Right.
Anyways, so we move. I moved to I went through the process, and I came to the United States in 2010. And during that time, it was challenging for me just to really relate to anybody. I thought it was the culture shock, but it was all the stuff that happened and how messed up I was. And then I decided to join the military. I was like, man, I can't be really participate in society and be effective unless I go join the military. That's the only thing I know how to do, and that's what I really want to do. I was inspired by the Green Beret guys, and I wanted to get my own. So I joined the military on that basis. That was my motivation, is to get my own Green Beret. And then I ended up going through basic training, got citizenship right after basic training, and then got stationed at Fort Bragg And after, as soon as I got to Fort Bragg, I was sent to Afghanistan. My unit got deployed. And after that, came back here and met my my wife. And but during that time, and throughout that time, there are a lot of changes that took place with me, whether this on a spiritual level and on all the immigration stuff that I start coming in contact with, and trying to get my mom and my two little sisters and my brother to join me here. And I keep promising them, and I just keep hitting one wall after another. And now I'm, but now I live the American dream here. I have a beautiful family. My wife is an amazing and beautiful. She's from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I have two beautiful kids. Well, my mom and my sisters are still refugees / got deported from Turkey and now back in Iraq and struggling with all these things, and that because of me and what I did. And yet here I see people coming across the border, jumping through the line. And while my family been in line for 14 years now, and I can't even get them here because the process is so convoluted and so chaotic. And every time you give a document and you fill out a form and just wait 2-3 years and then you get a response, like, man, this is a nightmare. Like, guys, seriously, I earned my stripe. I'm a veteran. I did all these things.
Well, you did more to earn your citizenship than most of us who were born here, right? So you first showed your loyalty to our country by helping our soldiers when it wasn't even your country. Then, and you did it at great risk, obviously. I mean, your family suffered. And then you come here. You get a special program to come here, and they dick around with your family. But you get here and you join our military to serve our country further. Right. And we still can't seem to find a way. Now, Biden can fly people in from all over the world. He can fly in gang members, prisoners, people who are in jail in other countries, and he can bring them in. But you, who literally lost had family members murdered for helping America, you can't get your mother and siblings to get over here to safety after serving our country in 100 different ways. You talk about a broken system. I mean, that's got to be frustrating.
It's beyond frustrating. Every time I talk about it, every time I think about it, I see my mother, how her health and everything is just in shambles, really. And she goes from one place into another. And in Iraq, we go back to now. Some countries are different. Some countries, when you leave them, the Syrians left. A lot of people leave their country and because of turmoil. My family left the country for completely different reason. Yes, there is ISIS that took place, and yes, we were all of these things, and yet I was successfully able to take them somewhere else, and even going into a different country, Turkey, that is. And then now the Turkish government have stopped renewing their visas, and then literally they have to go back to a country where the same people that we were fighting, they're in power.
Yeah, and send you back and they will murder. They will kill you.
Exactly, and you can imagine. And as I'm hearing the news and as I'm processing it, I was like, Lord, I don't. There's nothing I can do. I'm in this situation, and where I try to reach as much as I can to any politician, to anybody that can help with their process, and in any way or shape or form. It's like, look, man, it's like I'm bringing a 64-year-old who wants to be with her grandkids. And now she got nothing to worry about. I'm going to be a burden on the system. I'm here. I can support her. She have a house. She got everything she needs. It's just like I don't understand. It's just one paperwork after another. It's just submit this, do this, and we submit. It's like, okay, and then here it is, and then 2-3 years later, it's like, man, you cannot just process people like that. you know. But yeah, and even post the military, I see a lot of stuff that we talked about being a productive member of society. There are a lot of, and this is something that the Lord called me to. Is I have a heart for veterans, and all these guys that I served with, even in Iraq, some guys that we served together, the commandos, and we operated as one unit. We really didn't see that much difference in each other, and it's just we were one unit. We were brotherhood. And
Yep.
when we go outside the wire, it's done. We're one team. And so coming back, and even the stuff that I went through, and seeing whether an Iraqi commando gets killed by ISIS, or Sergeant Major get killed in Afghanistan, Green Beret Sergeant, decorated veteran who gets killed in Afghanistan for no reason. It's just, it hits me just the same.
Yeah.
So I struggled with it, and I went with a lot of, I went through a lot of times where, struggle with depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and all that. And really, what got me through was my newfound faith. That was the thing that really kept me together.
Well, let's talk about that, because you along the way, and let's lay this out, right? So you've got a guy who tries to help our country, and in the process loses his father, his grandfather, all sorts of friends, all sorts of people, but continues to stand by the United States. He gets the opportunity to come here, and he signs up to serve this country further in the military. And so you've been doing the right thing by our country for a very long time. And certainly, if anybody's earned their citizenship, I think it's you. But
everybody, are you ready to enhance your food security in these uncertain times? RensWholeCows.com provides high-quality beef products ideal for long-term storage and emergency preparedness. With beef under attack in America, it's crucial to have a trusted source like RensWholeCows.com. Visit the website today and secure your food supply.
you've been through hell and back on a level that most people can't even fathom, right? So we worry about, am I going to be able to have a little extra money for a vacation? You're worried about whether your mother's going to survive where she's at, after all you've done, whether we can get her to this country. So somewhere along the line, you have to find a way to get some peace in your heart and in your soul, because you've had to, I can only imagine the turmoil. And you did that. And how did that, tell me about that?
Well, like I said, it's a newfound faith. It's that level of peace that I get now. Trust me, I lose a lot of battles, but
you found Jesus.
But exactly, and that's the thing, and it was I was at Bragg. The way it happened, so this is crazy story, and I see it a lot happening in a lot of people in the Middle East. Just kind of experienced almost the same thing. I was at Bragg, and I remember coming back from training, and I was in the barracks. I took my top off. I was tired. I just still have my boots on. I just unbuckled, and I just crashed on my bed, and I was really tired, and I just closed my eyes, and I don't know if it was a dream or it was a vision, and we're to the point where it's just light filled the room, and I can see this bright figure, and just reaching down with his hand, and just said, I am, and I have no idea who that was. So I woke up with sweating, chills, like, man, what is this? I'm familiar with all the nightmares. Like, I get nightmares almost every
the PTSD nightmares.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with those. My legs are shot, and I can't run, or I can't shoot. I'm out of ammo. I'm trapped. I'm this and that and the other. All of these things I'm familiar with. That was different. So I walk out of the room, and then I see a friend of mine, and I said, he's like, "You all right, bro?" I was like, "Yeah, man, it's weird. I had this dream," and I told him what it was, and he looked at me, and all he did is just put his arm around me, and he said, Jesus loves you, Bram. And I said, get the off of me. And you know, and I was very against that. Anything that says God is just like, I'm against it. Because all the stuff that I've seen is like, man, if there is a God, there's like, how could you allow all this to happen?
Yeah.
You know, I was just angry. I know anyways. So life goes on, and at the time, my wife and I were just friends, and I just came back from Afghanistan, and I was going to see my mom in Turkey. She said, meet me at the airport. She was traveling. She's like, meet me at the airport. I have a book for you. I said, okay. So I went, met her at the airport as I was flying out, and she handed me the book, and I'm looking at it. The book called Jumping Through Fires by David Nasir. He's an Iranian guy that came from Iran during the Shah, left Iran during the Shah time, and then he ended up here in the U.S. And I ended up reading his book on my way to Turkey. And I read that book about 3 times. That book answers so many questions for me, coming from a Muslim background, from a Middle Eastern culture, and just having that dream and knowing now there somebody is pursuing me, like the Lord was pursuing me in such a way. There are a lot of things that are happening, and reading that book clarified and answered so many questions that I had as former Muslim, as being from the Middle East. And I had no way of denying it. It wasn't until my mom wanted to go see the Grand Bazaar and go to the Blue Mosque. Man, literally right before I go in at the Blue Mosque, they have this outside perimeter where they have these little gates with arches and whatnot. So we're trying to go in, and my mom said, "Oh, I want to go in there. Let's go in and pray." And it was like, "No, I don't want to go." And you go, and it's right at the gate. It felt like someone was pulling me back, and I said, "You go. I'm going to stay here." And in that moment, it's just as the pull was happening, I heard a voice said, "You do not belong." And I said, "Ooh, okay, this is real." And so I told my mom, "You go in." I turn around, and I remember that was the first time I said my first prayer. I turned around. I don't know why I looked up, but I just said, "All right, if you're real, I'll believe in you, but you have to do the rest." And that's it. And that's all I said. And here I am, almost 12 years later. And that was October 24th, 2012. And then here I am, 13 years now, 12 years. Now I'm in ministry now. Now I minister to veterans and help them out in any way that I can.
Well, and just so everybody knows, check out redefinedwarriors.com. Redefinedwarriors.com. That's Waleed's ministry. And he works to stop suicide and to help people to recover and to find their path forward. And I think your story is incredibly inspiring, Waleed. God bless you, and thank you for your work and your service to our country. Thank you for all that you've done for humanity. And man, kudos. How it's just, isn't it awesome how you find a way forward through all the hell, and you found a way forward on so many fronts. You found a way forward to become a citizen, to become a warrior for America, to do the right thing civically, and then you find a way forward to kind of reconcile and fill your soul and your spirit. I mean, you made it all the way through. People, please check out Occupied by Waleed Hamza. It's a wonderful, wonderful book by a wonderful, wonderful guy who's done some amazing things for this country and elsewhere. And let's take from his story and understand the issues and what we got to do to make this country better and go from there. Also, please support us at givesendgo.com/FriendsLaw. Givesendgo.com/FriendsLaw. We need anything you can give to us. If you got more, but give more. But $20 a month, it makes a world of difference for us. And we need your backing. We need your support. And then also, please check out Touchstone Essentials today. Go to TomRenz.com, www.tomrenz.com. Scroll down, you'll see Touchstone Essentials, and check it out. We're focusing on Boost Focus today. It's a wonderful product. You get in there, you get to shop around, you'll find it. get on the detox, get your kids on the detox, especially if they've been vaxxed or exposed to a lot of these chemicals from big pharma. Make sure you're supporting Touchstone Essentials. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back very soon.